Welcome back to Coaches Exploring the Untethered Soul. And today we're going to be looking at chapter 6, The Secrets of the Spiritual Heart. And we were all just chatting before we started recording this about how just some scars and telling stories and things. So I think today is going to be a fun day. So glad you're here with us. The first thing I highlighted was the kind of the second line where it says, your heart is one of the masterpieces of creation. And I just wanted to sit with that for a second. And I think for me, one of the big things I've been getting from this book, as they refer to things like your heart, prior to, for lack of another expression, my spiritual awakening, when I thought of my heart, I literally thought of the muscle in my chest that's pumping blood through my body. I didn't really think of it in any other context. And probably in the last year, some of us were on another program with Jamie, watching him do one-to-one coaching with the gentleman. And a big theme in that was him discovering his heart. And while that was happening, I was also discovering my own heart. So I think that's why this chapter resonates so much with me and my heart.
Yeah. As I was in these very first lines that came to mind, unfortunately, I can't remember exactly the reference. I think I read it in one of the British newspapers, or The Guardian, or The Times, or Independent, or something like that. But it's now fully recognised. And sadly, I should have looked it up earlier, because it's a disease of the heart, which has no origin, and it's been given the name of it's a name in Japanese. It's taku subu something. I can't remember exactly what, but it does indeed describe a physical ailment, let's say, which is finally, hello doctors and such like, finally connected to a way of being, let's say, an energy thing. And yet, if you think about it, I mean, we do speak of people who are heartbroken, but their heart indeed is in one complete piece, and they can indeed become very unwell. And my very own Uncle George, bless him, on the other hand, died of a happy heart. He died in front of the 1966 World Cup when the UK British won Football World Cup. Dead instantly of joy and happiness in his chair. His heart just couldn't take it all the love. So I think that this whole chapter is just, I mean, it speaks of all of this. All of us being human and manifesting all of the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts and the stuff that goes on for us, without even mentioning, what you were saying, Greg, that physical thing that pumps blood around our body. Yeah.
I loved your story. It's funny because when I was in London in the summer, Vanessa and I were there. England was in the Euro Cup finals, and everyone there was going on about they haven't won since '66, and unfortunately that's still the case. But
maybe it's saved a few lives then in the UK anyway.
Exactly. Well, and I was thinking my Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won since '67, and I was thinking a lot of lifelong Leaf fans will probably leave this world the way your Uncle George did if they ever do win. The other, just a little bit down, I think this is the second paragraph, second line. He says, even though its behavior governs the course of our lives, it's not understood. And just the idea, like it's a throwaway line almost, that this process that he discusses in this chapter governs the course of our lives. Like that seems pretty significant
Mm.
to me. And the part that it's not understood, and certainly the more times I go through this chapter, the better I think I understand it. And I guess part of what we're trying to do today here for people is help convey some of our understanding on it. But it's like, yeah, it's like I put this in the column again, like much of the three principles stuff. Like, how come we never knew this, or nobody ever
Yeah.
told us this kind of stuff?
Yeah. And
I'm happy to be discovering it now.
yeah. And I love that as well. It's not understood. And yet how much of and how many and how often do we say, I just know that this is how it is.
Mm.
And that is a message, if you like, from the heart. So I'm kind of thinking, well, it's not understood. I think more than anything, we don't listen to it.
Mm.
Yeah. We don't listen to what's going on. Because I think our human system understands it all too well.
Yeah.
But then we'll respond accordingly from the mind. We'll run away from something that's not very nice or we don't like, or we'll get ourselves into messes in relationships or whatever.
Mm.
And those samskaras will be opening and closing like fury.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you just reminded me, like even some other language that we use unwittingly, I guess, when like, follow your heart, listen to your heart, all that, the heart somehow knows, like things like that we hear all the time and don't really appreciate maybe what they actually mean.
Yeah.
In this case, it's even deeper than that. The heart stores the things that you need to deal with, and then it releases them for you to deal with them if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Which he goes on later to explain. It's when he's saying he's driving through and all the palm trees on the side of the road, like they're not stored.
Right.
They're just they come and go kind of thing, But otherwise things will be stored there until they can be released. Yeah.
Well, what occurred to me, or what was clear to me, is it's about resistance. We talk a lot about resistance.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you resist and resist and resist. It explains, the storage mechanism and how this stuff comes back up to be processed. And you can choose to process it or push it back down. And how it's connected to our energy. That's the really interesting thing for me. I want more energy, so I want to let these things go as quickly as I can.
Yeah, and that's so interesting. It's like, sorry, Lynn, do you want?
No.
It's like, because it's, even in going back to what Greg was saying about the language you use, but when we say something like, and you saying, Vanessa, it's stored there and it's kept there, and it like the pressure will start building up after a while, but good or bad, because we also have like the expression, my heart is full. So like, it's almost like you can't be too much in love because it won't be good for you, kind of thing. It's either way. And that kind of beautifully describes, I think, as well, the energy, which is formless. It doesn't have a name or an adjective or good or bad. But either way, you have a problem if the energy is kept there, stored there. Yeah.
Problem is an interesting word.
Mm.
I would say you have a stuckness, maybe.
Yeah.
Good or bad. You're stuck in that area.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the way he and I don't know if I'm going to assume he's speaking metaphorically to some degree, but the heart is very simple to understand. It is an energy center, a chakra. This energy flow has been referred to as Shakti, spirit, and Chi, and it plays an intricate part in your life. And the heart controls the energy flow by opening and closing. This means the heart, like a valve, can either allow the flow of energy to pass through, or it can restrict the flow of energy from passing through. But like in those few little lines, the idea that, this is known across the world in different cultures. We can give them different names. And it's a very, I don't know, just the fact that it's being referred to as a valve, and this, I can see the mechanical kind of simple nature of the whole thing. Like it's not, um, it just make for me, it's a very simple way to understand and visualize what's going on. And when you were talking about energy, Vanessa, the thing that popped in my mind is like, yeah, we have a society of, people drinking Red Bulls and Monster Energy drinks and all these crazy chemical concoctions to get a little jolt of energy. Meanwhile, like, at the core of our being is this heart valve thing just waiting to explode with energy.
The last line on the first page, at least in my book. But in truth, you are not your heart. You are the experiencer in your heart.
And that it's that when he said that, it brought us back to those earlier paragraphs of when he's talking about us being the noticer of our mind. It seems there has to be a connection there. It's like, here we are again experiencing this as this core part of us. I love the examples I love his examples all through the book for everything, but I just love the examples that he gives and how he makes it so something that is kind of intangible to a tangible. They're just downright relatable. He goes on, just under this whole piece about energy. You can be experiencing great feelings of love while in the presence of someone until they say something you don't like, and there it goes. It's like, I had an image of a Venus flytrap. It's like, there it is, it's closed. And that just brings up so much and feels so true.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me think of all kinds of scenarios where it was like you're in a good mood and then somebody says something and you're like, why'd you have to go and say that? And then, the whole mood is just shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a bit before as well, it's interesting that, however, to be able to have that experience, which he concludes that the paragraph before, where he says, think about what it's like to feel love in your heart. Think about what it is to feel inspiration, enthusiasm pour from your heart. Think about what it is like to feel energy well up in your heart, making you confident and strong. Well, the operative part of that is the verb think. Because otherwise we actually, if not forethought, we can't actually reach that experience.
What if you replace that word think with notice?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if the instruction of think of this, it's like it's giving you a real-time experience, because as you think,
well, that's what I kind of thought. That's kind of why,
like it points to a very I don't know, deep knowledge of how the system actually works.
Yeah.
Because I think it's powerful for us as coaches. We can use language like that with clients and things too. You want your client to experience their heart.
Yeah.
Say those lines to them. Think about your heart filling up with energy and joy and things. And it's almost,
Yeah, and the idea as well, because often I think many of us on a day-to-day kind of basis, we go through life and we are thinking like heavens we're thinking, and it's the jobs we've got to do and the things we've got to do and all the rest of it and the day we've got to get through and all the rest, and so it goes on, and we're not consciously aware of the thought that's creating that stressful, angst-ridden day to day hamster wheel routine of life kind of thing. But how he, in his writing, he sort of like just focuses right in, think about that and see how you feel, and makes, so it's like that, the thoughts coming into awareness, which, and it makes it so clear here in the book, sort of, simple and clear, straightforward. Yeah.
I really like too his explanation of how our system works. The world comes in through your senses. It's actually energy that's coming into your being, and it's kind of very matter of fact. Science has already proven this. Like, don't worry about it, kind of thing. But having heard that through programs with Jamie and through Three Principles things in terms of how we each live in our own separate reality. Like, it's just another good reinforcement of like understanding, what's actually going on. And in this context, what really came through to me was just the notion that it's all energy. And it kind of goes back to last chapter, the infinite energy one. But it really struck me much more true and clear and solid this time through.
And for me, that, yes, it's all energy, and that whatever it is about the energy, we did it. Like nobody else has done it for you. It's not the circumstance.
Yeah.
That makes it so clear for me here.
Which comes to this part. What it means to live life is to experience the moment that is passing through you, and then the next moment, and then the next. When you live in this state, you are a fully aware being. So that's, no resistance. Just let it pass through you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And
it feels true. And part of me is saying, what if it is true? Is it that simple? Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is, because if we look at anything that upsets us, where is that coming from? It's reading this, it makes sense to me that it's coming from what he suggests. And going back to last week's energy piece, there's all this stuff, and something happens and it hits on our stuff, and all our stuff bubbles up. If that stuff wasn't there to be disrupted, we wouldn't be feeling disrupted. We wouldn't be feeling upset. We wouldn't be feeling angry. We wouldn't be feeling whatever. It would just be flowing through. It wouldn't be bumping up against stuff. So yeah, it feels like it totally makes sense that's, it's that holding on. And he goes on to talk about clinging. I don't know which page that is in. Where we've just held on to this, be it good or bad feelings. We've held on to them, and then we react accordingly somewhere down the line. Whether it's, he talks about the blue Mustang, the black Mustang, whatever, from the story. And it's so true, you just see one thing or take in one little piece of information. There you are walking along, perfectly good mood. Something small happens and boom. I mean, how does it even make sense? It's wild.
And sometimes that stuff can come into your system, let's say, and you're actually not aware of it. Especially in the cases, let's say, of I can give you a classic. If I walk past a bakery and they've just baked the bread, and that smell of the fresh bread, now that'll take me straight back to when I first came to Italy on the island of Elba. Because I was already living in a city and there weren't any bakeries, so I didn't actually have that experience. And Mum didn't bake bread, so didn't have it as such. But I did know the smell. But it was all connected to a serious, I was in love and I was on a beautiful island and walking past the bread. So if I smell bread, I think of there. I'm straight there.
Yeah.
It's a great experience. It's not the Blue Mustang, thank heavens. It's a wonderful experience. But like, I'm not aware, I might not be aware, especially where I live now in a city. I can walk past a bakery, as they still exist, smell the bread, but I'm not aware that I've really smelt the bread. I've got other stuff on my mind. You know, I've got to cross over the road. Is the light green or blue or this kind of thing? And I didn't really notice it. But then those thoughts, and I'll be thinking, why am I thinking of the island of Elba? And then I'll sort of work my way back to it. Oh, it's the bread.
Yeah.
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 Well, since reading this chapter, every time I get a reaction to something, I'm thinking, oh, like I kind of sit back into that seat of consciousness. It's like, oh, is this the thing that's happening, or is this my stuff getting activated? And I think I was telling you guys, it might have been on the program last week about this e-bike that's been across the street from my house. Context of my stuff, I realized, oh, the fact that bike's there, I have all this stuff about it's wrong that something is somewhere where it's not supposed to be, and I'm going to get in trouble for it, or I know, like all kinds of stuff was coming up. So I can see it very clearly, almost like you're watching a game of like these samskaras, use singer's language, happening. Anyway, this week the finale of that story is I just thought I'm just going to Google the company, whatever. Oh, there's an email address. Send them an email. There's a bike here. Guy responds like 2 minutes later, going, "We've dispatched a driver. Within 15 minutes, the bike was gone."
Yeah.
But it's like it was a great little story and reminder for me of like, oh, once I got away from all my stuff, I just had a rational thought about what was the next thing to do. It was to find a contact thing, email them, and sort it out. Like it wasn't a big deal. But now I'm like, every time something happens, now I'm like, is this because of this event, or is this my stuff getting activated? And I realized this morning that this whole thing is like a microcosm of the whole coaching experience, or the whole experience of being on programs with you guys and with Jamie Smart and everything. It's like when I'm in those programs, my heart opens.
Yeah.
Stuff comes up. Like you're in a breakout with people and you're talking about something completely unrelated to something. You just go, you have an insight. And you're like, holy shit, my brother dropped me on my head when I was 3 years old, and I've been hanging on to that. And then you can let it go.
Yeah.
And we come out of those calls, or I do anyway, with a very open heart, feeling great. And then, when Jamie launches his next thing and wants more money, you're like, of course I'll pay that money. I love this experience of having an open heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we not tell him?
Yeah. We discovered
Do not
his
let him
secret.
do this.
But it's like even my own coaching with people, I go into a session with as open a heart of my own as possible, and almost invite your client to open their heart.
Yeah.
And things come up, they let them go. Like I realize, like when Jamie does his just breathe thing, that's processing. That's just your stuff's coming up, and you're letting it go. Anyway, it's like this whole chapter has just been like, holy cow, I see it.
So I've been having this experience where I know that those samskaras are releasing. I've had that like 5 or 6 times in the last week since I read this chapter. And sometimes I know what they're about. Sometimes I just know they're just passing out of my heart into the universe, and they're gone. And it feels good. In a way. Some of them aren't that pleasant, but that's okay. I know that it's I know I'm on the right path. When I get that feeling.
And I'm thinking for us as coaches, isn't that like an awareness that is so grounding? Because also Michael Singer is speaking to something that is fact. It's not an opinion. This is how it works. And so that when we come in with our clients and they, as he, describes, let's say a very, very stuck samskara on the next page on from where you were before, long term, the energy patterns that cannot make it through are pushed out of the forefront of the mind and held until you are prepared to release them. And then just further down, these patterns may be held within you for a very long time. And so if we go in and we have this certainty, this strong, solid grounding, that it don't work like that, you know, or it doesn't need to be that way even, where, you know, we are going to be well on the way to truly helping somebody with our hearts, with all of our hearts, you know, and being able to model that. Yeah.
It reminds me of a Sid Banks recording about forgiveness. Was, you know, the theme of that was just letting go. And you know, he wasn't using the language of samskaras and things like that, but it, you know, basically by not forgiving and letting go, you're holding
on
inside, and carrying that with you, that negative energy. And it's like, so like Sid's point was, you're not forgiving somebody for their sake, you're doing it for your own sake. Like it's letting go of that energy. And into what you said, Vanessa, about the feeling of it. He says, of course it hurts when it comes up. It was stored with pain. It's going to release with pain. You have to decide if you want to continue to walk around with stored pain, blocking your heart and limiting your life. So that it's that momentary release of it may come with pain, but the aftermath of it is a lightness and I don't know, just and a restored energy flow. It feels great.
Just has so many simple examples popping up of, and if we relate this to our work with the principles, it's like, how often? So yesterday I had a message from someone sharing that they had to go off and do something and they were feeling a bit anxious. And we had a little back and forth, and I got a message this morning to say, you know, I'm off on my way. And I'm like, and how's it going? Oh, it's great, thanks. I'm like, yeah, look at that. So what was going on there? You know, what samskaras were stored that were, you know, they had bumped up against, and it felt a bit uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, I only wrote one thing down from this whole, I have my highlighter, but I wrote one thing down, and to me, it just all comes back to being in the now. How do we feel in the moment? Like, and how do we feel in the moment? And it's so rarely how we imagine, as we've all talked about so many times. So there was all that past stuff coming up for her, and a whole lot of thoughts that were going on around this event. And in the moment, it had released. You know, they were released, and there's the flow, and there's the beautiful energy flowing, and just being present to it all. Just so reading this chapter, the examples are endless of just what we go through. And how simple, to your point, Elaine, when we're with people, and I don't know how often we all hear, oh, well, you know, it's been like this for years and it's going to be hard to deal with. And, you know, maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not.
What you just said reminds me of, as you know, we're just getting Halloween's tomorrow, but then we're into the Christmas season, basically. But Christmas is one of those things, when I've talked to people, they have, Christmas is a hard time of the year. It's this, and I'm like, oh, like, talk about a boatload of samskaras. It's like, you know, every present you open or every ornament you hang on the tree's got some meaning or story or. Well, one of the things I'm curious, like, if I ever had a chance to talk to Michael Singer, I'd want to ask him about the difference between kind of what you described earlier, Elaine, in terms of a memory, evoking a memory of bread, or whatever. Is that a samskar, or is that just a memory? You know, like, is there a distinction or a difference between just remembering something versus being?
Well, I'm kind of thinking the consequence that could be, in my case, you know, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
But let's say, you know, that whatever it is, that thing that you're not aware of,
Yeah.
whether it is just a plain thought or it's the sense that's brought in something,
Yeah.
then evokes maybe unpleasant feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because the for me, my food issue that I've had up until now is
Up until now.
triggered quite often by smells.
Mm.
And it's like, and I'm realizing reading this chapter, it's like, oh yeah, like I've got some samskaras, like big suckers,
Yeah.
from like early childhood memories
Yeah.
or something that is, I just smell something. Like my wife will order, sushi or Chinese food or something, and as soon as she opens the door to get the delivery and brings it in the house, I'm like, the first waft of it I get,
You're leaving the
I'm
room.
triggered. I'm like, okay, I got to leave the room, or it's like, what is going on there?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I got some processing to do here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he talks to that quick. I don't know. We can't mention page numbers because we're not all on the
Yeah.
same page. We figured out, but he talks about these impressions, and he said the point is that past impressions do get stimulated, even old ones, and they affect your life. Sensory inputs from today's events dig through all the stuff you have stored, all the stuff through the years, and they restore the exact past patterns associated with the incoming events. So to the two examples, to you guys, Greg and Elaine, those two. So Greg, your sensory input is bringing those smells of food and making you run from the room. Elaine's sensory input, she's walking past that bakery and there she is back in Elba, and it's beautiful and perfect and in love. And I think that's what he's saying. It's like, it's the good, bad, and the indifferent. It's bringing up what it's bringing up.
Yeah.
The fact is, it's in there,
Mm.
and not to be
And
quashed.
speaking to the bit where the samskara will, let's say it, once you've got it and it's building up inside you and it's like a resistance, as Vanessa said, an old song came to mind, which I think described it. And I mean, old, like, I don't know, Frank Sinatra or somebody like that, but it wasn't him. And it's a cigarette that bears the lipstick traces, an airline ticket to romantic places. Oh, how the ghost of you clings. These foolish things remind me of you. And that's, it's there. The ghost of you that clings is the part that, that could perhaps move on. Or not, but it's a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choice, and that's back to the energy piece last week, hasn't it? Where we were kind of grappling with this notion of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And near the end of the chapter, he says, "So you have a choice. Do you want to carry? Or do you want to try to change the world so it doesn't disturb your samskaras?" And I think to myself, like, that's a pretty lofty task, changing the world so it doesn't disturb your stuff. Or are you willing to go through the process of purification? And he talks about they'll come up during the day, they'll come up even in your dreams. Your heart will become accustomed to the process of releasing and cleansing. Just let it happen, get it over with. I was telling Lynn on Monday, the last 3 weeks or so, I've noticed I've been dreaming, at least it seems like, way more than I ever have dreamt that I can recall, and like much more vivid dreams, like all kinds of stuff. And I think it's, reading this book and opening and, my system dealing with and dreaming about stuff like old memories and I don't know, all kinds of crazy
cool
stuff. Yeah,
Very
it's been fascinating. And the other thing I've noticed when I'm out on my walks, and it's fall here, so all the leaves are changing colors and stuff, it's just like I've been stopping and taking pictures of trees with my phone. Like, what is going on? Like, people that know me would be like, has this guy lost his mind? Like, I've never taken a picture of a tree in my life, and now I'm like, oh, look at the, like, it's so, the colors are so bright and so, and it's not just like, it just seems like the tree just has this energy.
Yeah, it's the energy of the tree.
I saw a blue jay the other day. I hadn't seen a blue jay, but like, I probably have seen blue jays, I just didn't notice them. But now I'm noticing things, and it's I don't know.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's freaking me out, but it's not. It's just it's freaking me out in a good way. Like I'm enjoying it. It's almost like instead of seeing the world through these layers of some scars, I'm seeing the world for like the moment that it is.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Can we still hang out with you, Greg, now that you're enlightened?
No,
Then
I was just thinking the next time we see Greg, it'll be a photo of him hugging a tree that his wife's taken, and she'll just put it into the Zoom thing.
Yeah.
It'll be Greg with a
Okay,
tree.
so
That's
I
the
was
new
reading
avatar.
something about grounding, like literal grounding to the earth, like standing on the grass with bare feet and stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I've been out in my backyard a few times doing that, thinking like, I wonder what the neighbors are thinking. But when I've been out on walks, I'm like, oh, I'm going to try this, and I go over and like hug a tree, and not hugging it, but like holding onto a tree and things, and it's, you know, whether it's people seeing me holding a tree or walking backwards around a soccer field, and
Yeah.
all these thoughts of like people are going to think I'm crazy is my initial kind of worry or whatever, and then I'm like, how ridiculous is that? Like,
Yeah.
you know, to even think that other people are even thinking or observing what I'm doing is crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. If you think about trees, they're so interesting. They operate on a time frame that is so much slower than us. And you look at some of these really big trees, they've been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe even more than 1,000 years. Can you imagine being in one place, experiencing the world in that one place for 1,000 years? They have, the way I see it is, they have so much wisdom and knowledge and so many stories we can't even imagine. They've seen the world change in so many ways.
There must be so many, if you think in time, if time is an issue, or even time has got anything to do with it, it's like they must have, because there is a heart of the tree.
I believe there is.
I believe there must. There must
is,
be.
yeah.
If we're talking about energy, then there must be. Certainly isn't a red sort of shaped, heart-shaped thing that pumps blood around your body, but there'll be a heart in there somewhere. Just think how many openings and closings and renewals over time that it's witnessed, seen, and
exactly
all the tree does is keep on growing.
They're witness.
Witness to all of that. So there's an supply of I'm thinking of sequoia in can't remember where it is, which state it's in the States, which was the most amazing experience. I mean, it's like you actually think you're actually with living beings, and you're actually the only human being in the whole sequoia forest, and it's out of this world experience. There's particular energy which I think comes from the trees. I mean, I can't explain it any other way.
I noticed when I was in London how huge the trees were, like the old trees in the parks there.
Yes.
Versus here where I am in Canada, like there's nothing that's probably more than 50 years old or something. I don't know, but like just to see these huge oak trees and things, and just wonder, like, I wonder how old this tree is.
Yes. So one of the things I found very interesting in this chapter is where he talks about, as the samskaras build up, they encrust the spiritual heart. And I couldn't help but think, how is that connected to heart disease? If it's, it really sounds like heart disease to me, when the heart becomes stiffer and not able to, turn on a dime like it used to, and things build up. That's plaque. It's just it's too good a description of what's going on in the body not to be connected.
Yeah, and here he relates it to depression. Same idea.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Unending inspiration, unending love, unending openness. That is the natural state of a heart. Just keep letting go.
That seems like a pretty good place to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Next time we're on to chapter 7, transcending the tendency to close.